Give me a thumbs up when you're ready. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for tuning in to Mandy the Mentor. I am sitting here with my guest today, Keneisha Tanae, and we are anticipating a great show. I would like to first just give you an introduction of Tanisha. Tanisha, she started a women's, well, a co-ed Bible study called Kingdom Chronicles. She's a part of the adult ministry, which is called Brick House. It's a social media and production. And also, she's a part of a mentorship program called Fly. Welcome, Tanisha.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so honored to be here speaking with you. So
Well,
thank you.
amen. Well, it's an honor to have you here. It's certainly an honor. You know, you're here because I know that you have a voice. We know that you have a voice. We know that through the things that the Lord have afforded you to come out of, we know that there's power and there's strength behind that. And tonight, I just want you to display the power of God that's in your life, over your life, and that has been leading your life.
Okay.
So, if you don't mind, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So, as you stated earlier, the Lord gave me a vision about a year ago to start a co-ed Bible study and so I went forth earlier this year and started with a team of 3 other wonderful people, a co-ed Bible study called Kingdom Chronicles. And then within that, I'm also now serving in ministry, as stated earlier. I'm on the social media production team for the young adult ministry at my church, and here and there, the Lord gave me a call and just a tug, a spiritual tug, to tell me that He wanted me to use the gift of dance that He placed in me for Him and for His kingdom. And so I've been going forth in the avenues that He has shown me He wants me to do that. So I also worship with my church, but as a person in my life, I'm just really comfortable, and not so comfortable that I'm complacent, but I'm content where God has me, with what He's doing with me, with where He's taking me, what He's showing me about myself, and then more so where He's wanting to continue to prune me in certain areas to prepare me for whatever is next. And so, in a nutshell, that's kind of what I'm doing, but who I am, I'm just trying to be a vessel used for the Lord, for His glory.
Amen.
Given every gift that He's given me.
Amen. Well, I'll tell you, I know that there are a lot of young women out there that are inspired by your gift. Inspired by what the Lord has put in you, because the Lord has. It's evident that the Lord has imparted so much, and He's imparted for you to go and impart into others. So I just really thank God for your Bible study and for you opening your Bible study up for a co-ed. Not only are you pouring into women, but you're pouring into men also. And I think that that's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. It's not me. It's not me.
Amen.
He's just using me to do it. So
that's right.
I'm happy to be the vessel. And it's tough. It is not easy by any means. Some days I wake up and I'm just like, Lord, I don't know why you picked me. I just, people don't always understand the weight of saying yes to God. There's a lot of times that I didn't say yes on purpose because I knew it came with a lot.
Yes.
But I didn't know what. Like, I would just know, oh, that's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of eyes on me. I'm not into that. And so I would literally shy away from doing what God asked me to do, partially, and sometimes that's a very painful thing. That's going to be hard for me to do. So let me not do that. Mm-hmm. Let me just stay with what I feel is comfortable. But God was just like, you have to understand, when I exalt you and when I continue to use you in the avenues that I want to do it in, I'm going to get the glory, and I will not exalt you to embarrass you. So just trust me. So where He leads me, I go. And where He doesn't lead me, I don't go.
So do you remember a time where you may have been offered an opportunity that may have looked good to you and it may have felt good to you, but the Lord had told you no, that wasn't the window that He provided?
Yeah. I feel like I've had a lot of those things happen. But I think sometimes I overwhelm myself, not because I want to, but I just know that I can. I have seen my rubber band be stretched, if that makes sense. Like, I know how far I can go. And so I will tend to stack on a number of different things that I'm good at, that I know I excel at, and someone sees my leadership skills here and they're like, oh, I want you to do this. I think you'd be good for this. I want to lead you in this area. And I'm like, okay. And I pray about it before I say yes. But sometimes if I'm not careful, especially when it comes to what God has asked me to do, I could a couple years ago have definitely mistaked what was good for what was God. And he continues to prune me in that when it comes to a ministry or a level of leadership that I want to be involved in. Or sometimes it could be, for me, it always comes in leadership roles, if that makes sense.
It does.
They're offered to me, and I usually pray. I pray real hard about them, and people get mad at me. Sometimes my coworkers laugh at me because they like, oh, you got to pray about it first, like before I can do something. But I'm dead serious. I have to subscribe that to the Spirit of the Lord and see, like, Lord, is this what you have for me? And I'm not afraid to say no. So I've had it happen in leadership roles, inside of church, outside of church, sometimes just in daily life. A lot of things come to me that I know would be good to continue to develop my portfolio as it relates to my professional career. But I am in a place where I don't just need my portfolio to be developed. I need it to be edifying. I need it to be glorifying the Lord. So I very much think about where that aligns with my professional career, which is good. So I've seen it on that side as well. And I've had to say no to a lot of different possible things that I could add to my plate that just were not God. Not even able to really just specifically say one.
Yeah. I think that's powerful what you said, because the Word of God says that if we acknowledge the Lord in all our ways, that he will direct our path, and acknowledging God, he will give us a yes and no, and he'll tell us what to do and what not to do. And sometimes God will tell us to do things that seems crazy to the world, and it seems like you're not getting anywhere, but it's according to our faithfulness and our belief. When you said that, it kind of struck home with me a little, because I'm sure that we all can agree that we've been down that road before. But I want to say something to you. When I look at you, Tanisha, I see peace. I honestly, Keneisha, I see peace when I look at you. Can you just tell me how the peace of God has really been put into place in your life?
Yeah. That's really heartwarming for me. That means a lot to me because I protect my peace, if that makes sense. I protect my anointing. I protect everything around me, and it's to a T. Like, and sometimes it's not okay, right? Because you can almost think you're protecting so much that you have a control issue. So I have to definitely limit what all I think I should be able to control, if that makes sense. But I got to a point in my life where I was trying to do so much out of my own will, my own thoughts, what I thought was good, what I thought was a good relationship, what I thought was a good way to just have a free mind and have free thoughts, and what peace looked like, and my opinion, and how I talk to people, and how I treat people. Everything was very much what I wanted in life. Okay. And what I thought was good was most of the time very wrong and very hurtful to some people, very immature, very much out of my flesh. Like, I just kind of had fleshly thoughts and ideas that I felt were good and were peace and were going to bring me peace. I had relationships in my mind that I thought would bring me peace, friendships that I thought would bring me peace, outlets that I thought would bring me peace. And it wasn't until I really just got in God's hands, like I decided to submit to his hands around my life, as opposed, because it's not that he was never there, his fingerprints are everywhere when I really look back over my testimony. But it wasn't until I just decided to say, okay, there has to be a better way to do this, because God had let me get to literally my wit's end on everything I thought I could control, as it relates to my peace, to the point where I didn't have any peace. I had none. So I didn't know where to get it, and I didn't know how to fix it. Nothing would be sufficient. So I got to a place where I was so low, like mentally, personally, in my heart, in my spirit, and I said, God, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this life thing. I don't know how to do this people thing. I don't know how to do this forgiveness thing. I'm stressed out. I'm tired. I'm sick. Like, I'm sick. I wore myself out. And God said, I just need you to trust me, and I need you to do it my way. And the hardest part about that was I don't know God's way. I didn't at that time. But what we have to also know is that where we seek God, we will find Him.
That's right.
So I had a teachable spirit, and I think that that's something that I have maintained that continued to help me continue to hold on to my peace, because the fact that I was teachable, God was able to literally lead me to resources for peace, for forgiveness, for wholeness, for dealing with my anger, and many of different things that made me have actual peace personally. And I started to realize that His peace is what I need. I started to understand what His peace felt like. And so I stopped overwhelming myself and trying to be something and keep everything together all the time in a way that is not even tangible. It's not possible without God. And so I kind of just let Him keep everything together in my life. And then I just take on application piece. But sometimes people think faith is just, oh, let me let God have it.
Yeah.
No. Every single thing that you have, that you want, and you're asking God for, and He creates desires in your hearts and what have you, there is an application piece to all of that. There is an action item for you. Yeah, you asking God to do a thing. You can pray for medical school all day, but if you never take the MCAT, if you never study, you're not getting there. So all that faith is great, but there's no work attached to it. So I wanted the peace, and I had to do the work to go get it. It wasn't just handed to me. It was very much mine. God would show it to me. Like, I got this for you. Don't ever think that my supply is limited. But just understand the only way you're going to truly understand how it feels to really embrace this peace is to submit to my will and my way. And that's how it's ended up.
Amen. So you spoke of unforgiveness and anger. So I want to retroactively go back into your past. And I want you to just tell our viewers and share with me those moments where you were angry, where you had to seek for forgiveness, and where you know that God had truly forgave you. You were able to walk in freedom.
So I think about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 4 now, I was really trying to understand forgiveness God's way. And it wasn't until, I guess, 4 years ago that I realized I had not truly forgiven people. But what I had gone through, I kind of thought if you sweep stuff under the rug, you'll get better. Just stop thinking about it, out of sight, out of mind. You know, all these really great words or wise things people say. But don't any other have any way than the kingdom of God. He's like, you don't want to acknowledge these things. I'm going to keep pulling them back up to your address so that you can tend to them. So a lot of things just kept popping up. A lot of pain that I did not at all acknowledge and deal with. Like random things would lead me to cry and be sad and irritated. And so I just started to use my pain to literally trace me back to what was I not doing? What was I not acknowledging? What was going on in my heart and my mind that set certain standards for my value and my ability to be whole? What was tearing that apart?
Mm-hmm.
So I finally decided to get to the bottom of it, and that was what made me want to literally. I went and searched with a full heart to figure out how to forgive, because I knew only the Lord could do it.
Yeah.
And I read a lot of inspiring stuff, but not godly stuff. Like sometimes people can give you a lot of inspiring words, a lot of inspiring books, but I got to a place where my spirit could not be corrected without something that anchored back to the Word of God. You would tell me how God felt about it, what He thinks about it, why He let this thing happen to me, why this thing did happen, and then I was able to build off of that.
Okay.
So I kind of grew up very much in a household that just kind of had a lot of strife. We didn't really get along. My mom and dad were divorced when I was born, and so it just kind of became a household of a lot of different generational curses just popping off and getting attached.
Okay.
And so it was a very aggressive household, and it was just a lot of tension and anger all the time, very explosive anger, verbally explosive. So all I grew up around was a lot of pain and hurt and just scars, continuously adding wounds, and then the wounds would kind of heal, but I was putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds. And those never heal of anything. They get infected, and then they infect other stuff. So those things infected other parts of my life. Just kind of being talked to, not really being loved the way that I felt I needed to be loved. And I got to a place where I had to realize I can't be mad at my parents for not being who I wanted them to be.
Yes.
Because they might not have set those expectations for themselves. And so all they did was fail my expectations for them.
So when did you come to see that? When were your eyes open to what you just said? Because we know that it takes the Lord. It takes the Lord to come in and show us
just
truth.
Jesus. It was just Jesus. It was just Jesus. Because I got a hold of this book. And if you can get this book, if you are dealing with unforgiveness, I tell everybody I know, go get this book. It is called Total Forgiveness. And the total aspect takes not only just the forgiveness and walks you through how to forgive, but then it walks you through how to forgive God's way. How to literally pray for your enemies and mean it. Pray that God blesses them.
Yes.
Pray that they forgive themselves. Like, it takes it to a whole nother level to where it was sometimes I sat with chapters of that book and I was like, Lord, now I know that this is what you're saying, but I don't have it in me to forgive like that. I don't have it in me to pray for this person. Like, I don't. And where I surrendered though, I had a willing heart to say, God, I don't, but I surrender that to you. I surrender my pride. I surrender my ability, I think, to control the fact that I don't want to give this person the forgiveness that they deserve. And once I got to that place with that book, it helped me realize my parents did everything they could. It might have been their all, it just wasn't my all. So that's the only thing that didn't align. They gave their 100%. It just didn't connect with my 100%. But when I got to a place where I stopped making them feel like they needed to feel sorry for that. Yeah. They needed to feel bad for that. They needed to, I was able to receive the apologies I never got. I was able to receive the love I never got without being so mad at them and so mad at God. Because I had a grudge towards God. And that book showed me I was upset with God.
Yeah.
I felt like, God, you could control everything around me. And somehow with all the power that you have, God, as you are God, I was real prideful and like irritated with God. So I used to think like this. And I was like, you have control of everything. So why on earth did I go through all of these things? If you could stop them, why did it happen?
Yeah, I can actually connect with that. I remember when my daughter passed away, and I didn't realize at the time that there was something that was taking place in me. But it was years later, my sister Stephanie, she came to me, she said, Amanda, because I kept feeling a wedge between me and God. I kept feeling like every time I would reach out, and of course he's there, he's full of love. He didn't have the issue I did, right? So I would go to pray, but I would feel something. Every time I would take a step forward, I would feel something. Right. And my sister Stephanie came to me and she said, Amanda, do you think you're angry at God? And I was like, absolutely not. I thought it was just a little crazy. I'm like, no ma'am, me angry at God? Are you serious?
No way.
Let me tell you, when I began to just really pray and really just lay myself out before God and ask God what was the disconnect between he and I, he revealed to me that I was angry with him. But see, I was operating out of deception.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm pressing, Lord, I'm trying to get to you. Yeah. And it was unforgiveness because I'm holding God, we know he's innocent, but I'm holding unforgiveness towards God, anger towards God, because my daughter passed away. And what happened was it was hurt. It was hurt. Hurt led to anger, and then it went from there. Now I'm angry with God. I'm hurt because me not really realizing this is what my heart is saying. Our heart is so deceitful. Right. Me not realizing that, I'm saying in my heart, God, why did you let my baby pass away? And why did I have to find her and pick her up this way? Yep. I'm saying I didn't deserve that. But I thank God, because through the power of the Holy Spirit, he revealed that to me. Yep. And then I was able to go to him and say, now, Father, forgive me. And also heal me from these hurtful wounds. So I can definitely connect with you, Keneisha.
And that was it. That was what I had to do. I had to acknowledge that the pain was there.
Yes.
I had to acknowledge that I was hurting. I had to acknowledge that I was mad at God. But then I had to also acknowledge that God was not wrong.
Yes.
That God was not the one that did these things to me. A lot of times things happen in this world and we cannot necessarily explain why they take place.
That's right.
But we have to know and truly believe that when we lean into God, when we continue to trust him with the toughest parts of our lives, he has a way of making those things work together for his good.
Yes, he does.
And so because of my experiences, I'm able to minister to the girl that grew up in the broken home,
Yes.
to minister to the girl that grew up around a lot of abuse, to minister to the girl that never felt like she had the expectations of love met in her life. So as a result, she let everybody else define what that meant for her. I'm able to explain that to her and talk to the girl that's irritated, angry over that. And I really think as a result, you're able to minister those birth challenges, things of the nature, has lost a child. You can speak to that.
You know what? I honestly believe that we all have a testimony. It doesn't matter what it is. Every single person has a testimony. We have something to share. But I honestly believe that there's a spiritual penetration that goes on. You know, when I meet a woman that has lost a child, and if God assigned me to her and I begin to speak in her life, there's a penetration that goes on in the realm of the spirit, and her heart begins to be penetrated spiritually, and now she's connected. And that's where that drawing come in at. It's through lifting up the Lord, first of all, when he's lifted up, but then he uses us as tools to pull the people in.
Yes.
And it's through the words of our testimony.
Yes.
You know, how can you tell me something if you've never been through anything?
Right.
But everybody has a testimony. We just have different level of testimony.
Right.
You know, there's different aspects, you know. So just kind of want to put that out there, because I know that sometimes when communicating with women, I've heard women say, well, I haven't been through this. I haven't been through that. But what are those thoughts, you know? But what is that you feel deep down inside? What was that no you got in your past? You know, so we all can share. So once again, we all know I'm famous for helpers to one another in the body of Christ. We are helpers to one another in the body of Christ. Now, I do want to ask you a question. Tell me a time when you had an encounter with God and God confirmed that he was doing a new thing in you.
Ooh. Oh, wow. Well, I would say it had to start with the unforgiveness thing, because I didn't really start to take my relationship with God seriously until I could get over the grudge with him.
Okay.
Because I would pray, but I would pray out of a very torn, unbelieving heart.
Yes.
I would pray very surface level prayers with the Lord, because I couldn't trust him with too much. That's how I felt. I was like, Lord, last time I gave you that, we already saw what you did with that. So, but then it was one of those things where God was like, I did that to protect you. I did this to prepare you. Like, he just started to redefine what I was thinking about those things. And so as I started to see the transformation that was happening in me, like it started and the Lord sparked the need to forgive and godly forgiveness in a relationship I wasn't supposed to be in.
Okay.
Now that I look at it, I was supposed to be in it because it was supposed to prepare me. It made me the woman that I am today. I say if I had to go back and do it all again, I would do it again, because it just showed me so much.
No regrets.
No regrets at all.
Amen.
And so God literally put me in this relationship, and me and my boyfriend, we were great, we were worldly, we were wonderful, we would party, we would have a good time, and then I thought I was just a good woman of God. I was like, yeah, I'm a woman of God, I'm X, Y, and Z, because I read the Bible every now and then, I go to church. I wasn't no real woman of God. Like, looking back, it was not anchored. My Christian life was not literally lived in every single thing that I did, every conversation that I have, every thing that I partake in. And God just started to prune me. He started to use that relationship to expose me to a godly marriage, to expose me to people who really live a consistent Christian walk. They go to church and then they come home and their household is godly. The way they talk to each other is godly. And yes, it doesn't mean it escapes problems. Like my ex-boyfriend's parents were incredible people. Like, now I'm floored by the thought of them. They just blew my mind, because I had never seen a man love his wife like that and really be who he says he is. He doesn't drink. He's sitting at home and he's like praying over his family. He deals with a difficult child a certain way. It was just godly.
Okay.
And that changed my life.
I'm gonna have to reel you back in just a little bit, because
Lord.
you can go. You have a lot in you. No, I praise God for you. You have a lot in you. But I want to ask you, when did you experience your no in that relationship? What was your no like? Describe to us your no.
Miss Amanda. Okay. So I was in that relationship for about 2 years, and God started pruning me. He started showing me a godly marriage, not the worldly marriage I used to pray for, but the godly marriage. But then he started to show me how to be a woman of God, not just a wife. I thought I wanted to be a wife, but then God was telling me, you want to be a wife, you're going to be a great wife, but you need to be the wife that I want you to be. You need to be the wife that I've called you to be to the right man. You need to not be some good wife to the man that I did not assign you. And so I was like, come on, God. Like, I was I had got to a point where my boyfriend was really great. He was the type, he would, like, they had me in the church every Sunday. I wasn't going to church every Sunday in college. I wasn't like that. So I was going to church every Sunday. It was to the point where I had leaned completely into God. And then at some point or another, we just weren't leaning in at the same speed. Okay, so I had fell all the way in love with Jesus as much as I knew how. And then God was dealing with me.
Okay.
And he showed me, he's not leaning in like you. He's not leaning in like you. And I said, okay, God, well, can you bring him? Bring him with me. But what God has shown me is that sometimes the people I want for my life, God doesn't want for my life. He doesn't want them past the purpose that they had. So he pushed me. And then Lord snatched him from me. Like God just took him. I didn't even get to say, okay, God, like, I really want you to take him. God just snatched him. And I was like, okay, this is okay. It's going to be okay. But it wasn't okay. I was tired. I was sad. I was hurt. God gave me a no by taking him.
Yeah.
And then making it so painful of a taking that I could not go back. My pride was on the line. At that point, I had to
cut you off, but so you said there was pain. Mm-hmm. Could it have been because God had already told you no, but you refused to listen?
Oh yeah, God gave me 20 no's, and I didn't get it till the 25th. Like I had 20 no's, but I didn't want to. I was working in deception, like you said. I was definitely operating in making my makeshift thing, but his relationship, the relationship with him, showed me I had daddy issues. Yeah, I didn't know I had them. I've never been the type to believe that like I had daddy issues. Yeah. But what God started to show me when I broke up with him, and like when it had to end, was that I had to sit with myself and decide how and why do I stay in situations much longer than I'm supposed to. Okay. Why have I allowed more men to stay in my life and be in relationships with me? Because they'll be in relationships with me for a while. I like a long-term relationship. Yeah. But the problem is, I was so focused on finally having some man be permanent, because the man that I was supposed to see be permanent in my life was not that to me.
You know, you said something. I don't know if you saw my video or not, but I did a video about daddy issues. And let me tell you something. The Lord dealt with me about so many different areas of my life. There were things that I couldn't discuss on camera. I wanted to discuss, and it had nothing to do with people I'm connected to. Well, it did, but in my personal life, in the life of boundaries, it had something to do. And let me tell you, the daddy issue, I saw some things growing up in my household, and I found myself trying to fix the man that I was with. I tried to fix them, tried to change them, tried to make them better. Right. Because you know the saying on the street is, a good woman, you know, you get a good woman behind you, she'll change that man. You know, that's a lie from the pits of hell, because it didn't happen. And I found myself trying to fix men up. I found myself trying to do this and trying to do that to make it right. Well, if I can be good enough in this area, if I could just talk to him, show him the love of God in me. Let me tell you, unless a person is ready to change, they will not change. But I don't want to get off topic, because I want to stick with the daddy issues, because we can relate there, right? Yes. And due to the issues that went on in my household between my mother and my stepfather, I found my mom, I'm just going to be honest, I was a reflection of my mother. Like a reflection of my mother. My mother, I saw her go through with my stepdad. I saw her try to make things right, and that was imparted into me. So when I would connect and be in a long-term relationship, I tried to make the man right. He would mess up, and I was like, baby, we're going to make it through this. God, I'm praying over him in the middle of the night. I'm doing this and doing that. And that's a pattern. That has been a pattern with me. When the Lord showed me that, and I can't go off into, it's not time for me to release that yet. Yeah. But when the Lord began to show me that, it hurt me to the core of my heart, because I saw my mother. I saw where I came from. And I began to say, Lord, I don't want to impart this into my children. Amen. Now, my children are older now, so I'm really praying, because I don't want my children to feel like they're helping someone and they're really hindering them and hurting themselves. Right. So thank you for saying that, because I really connected to the daddy issue.
And then I want to say the project man part, like that's something that I feel like God really pulled up to my address on too, and said that word is for me, because there was a part of me also that would date a man and stay with a man, deal with somebody I knew I wasn't supposed to be with, because there was something about me that needed to feel like validation for me. I'm saving this person, I'm helping this person. It was almost like just very much putting myself on a pedestal.
Yes.
I want to feel like I did a good thing because I helped you. And that's selfish ambition. The Lord hates that.
Yes.
And then it got to a point where I realized I am not, that is what gravitates me to people. I'm so closed off that I was like, okay, I'm not even gonna let people in.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got to a place where I was like, okay, once you've been, you've met a couple of check boxes, you can move to the next level. So I might deal with you a little closer. But then there was a part of me that always knew certain people shouldn't have made it past this check mark, but they did. And I compromised. And when I started to make small compromises then couple small justifications.
Yes, they did.
And the minute you've compromised a little bit and you add a little bit of justification, it is a spiral and it is a cycle. And before you know it, the compromises get much bigger and then the justifications get much bigger. And then it blows out of proportion. People are hurt. I'm talking about pain that you deal with and live with for quite some time.
Yeah.
And I realized in that relationship how much like my mother I was. I learned how I picked up the anger that I had. Nobody had really pushed me to a place where I was just irritated and popping off and verbally doing, but I did what I saw to be so in my household. And then before I knew it, I sat with myself and I said, I don't want to be like this.
Yes.
I don't want to be this type of woman. I don't want to be this type of wife. I sure don't want to be this type of mom.
That's right.
So I don't know what it is that I need to do, but Lord, I need you to do a new thing in me. I need you to change it. I need you to break it. I need you to show me every area of brokenness that I have not tended to that's going to come out. It's only bound to come out. When you don't deal with it, it's just on reserve, but it's waiting. The enemy is sitting and panting and waiting. He plays for keeps. So he's playing to kill everything that God has placed in you.
That's right.
He knows what God placed in you. But it's one of those things where I didn't realize that's what God was doing with me until I actually got in that relationship. He showed me how to forgive. I helped my boyfriend at the time forgive because he was dealing with some family stuff. I helped him with that. It then helped me forgive my family at the time. But then I learned a very valuable thing, that forgiveness is an everyday decision.
Yes, it is.
So I forgave, but the part that I didn't add, which was the godly aspect, was to wake up every single day and choose to forgive that person.
That's powerful.
Separate the thing from the person and still choose to love on the person. You don't have to be so in close proximity as like some people think that forgiveness is reconciliation. And the book is so beautiful because it breaks that down. It doesn't mean you bring some terrible person back into your life that God has already told you is not for you. It just means that when you're talking about them, the discussion is healthy. You're not saying anything negative about them. You're praying for God to bless them. And then you're waking up every day and choosing to forgive them in your heart. That was hard to do every day. So I failed sometimes.
Well, one of the signs of true forgiveness, because have you ever, for instance, you haven't seen someone in a long time that offended you, and you say in your mind, I forgave that person. I truly forgave. And when you see that person, it's something that rises up in you.
Yeah.
There's an irritation. There's something in you that that's uncomfortable that rises up against that person. That's the manifestation of you have not forgave. That issue is still there, you know. And a lot of times we do basically train our minds, train ourselves to believe that I truly have forgave. This God has really, I'm really walking in freedom. I'm walking in forgiveness. But what it is that we haven't been challenged yet. Or that trial haven't came around.
Right.
That circumstance haven't came around. That person that hurt me is not before me, so it's out of sight and out of mind.
Right.
I thank God that, you're able to, speak on forgiveness and you're able to share your story because I know that you have a lot of in-depth stories concerning forgiveness, you know. And one thing about it is when you're speaking with a person, discernment is something else. You know if they're being honest or not. And I just want to thank you for being authentic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for just allowing the Lord to complete that process in your life of forgiveness. And forgiveness is a choice. We do have to wake up every day and choose to forgive because people are going to forever offend us. People are going to say things. They're going to do things. But we have to, as children of God, say, God, I choose to forgive. It's the same way when Jesus was on the cross. He said, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. I say, Father, forgive them for they know not who child they're messing with. And Father God, I choose to love them anyway.
Amen. Amen. And I want to disclaim, I don't always get it right. I think that a lot of people see my life and they see me living and leading and loving it, and God pruning me. And God took a lot of stuff from me. He did. He really pruned me and got me and molded me, and I remained pliable so that he could shape me.
Yes.
But I never want anybody to think that you get to a point where you're no longer tempted and tested and you fall. So I fall sometimes. I don't always wake up and forgive every day. And I mean, I have a real life like representation of that. Sometimes I don't all the way forgive, or I've forgiven and then I stop making a daily decision to forgive on that thing, and then I'm tested. Like you said.
Yeah.
I'm tested, and this happens in my family often with the two people that just can try me real quickly. And I love them to death. They love me to death, but they can cross that line. And then the forgiveness that I've given to my parents, I think sometimes God will allow my mom to just come around or be around, or something could happen or conspire between us. And at that point, he has to check me and say, did you forgive? Did you wake up today and did you decide to forgive today? Because I don't think you did. And after a while, he stopped dealing with what I thought. I used to go to my prayers prideful, like, oh God, you know, you need to come into her heart, Lord. Cover her, fix her. And after we would have a discussion that was somewhat heated or something of that nature, God would sit with me. I would go get ready to pray, and he'd be like, so what was that? what was that? Well, what are we doing? And I got to a point where that conviction is what made me think that much harder about how I deal with that.
Yeah.
And it's much better now, but it wasn't always that way.
You know what, Keneisha, you just said something. It reminded me of the Lord when he was dealing with me about the daddy issues. And at the end of the day, he was telling me that, Amanda, this certain situation, there's no innocent parties. You full of resistance.
That's good.
You were full of you gave a lot of pushback. You didn't listen. You weren't very obedient. And he let me know that there weren't any innocent parties out of a certain situation of mine, you know. And I'm like, Lord, like, because sometimes we can get it twisted. We think that because you did this, or we'll try to weigh out people's sin against what we've done. Okay, I only said this. Or if it's, for instance, an example, for a husband and wife, you know, a wife may be like, well, I probably didn't listen to my husband. My husband flew off the handle, you know. And we'll try to weigh it out when in God's eyes there's no difference. We're both wrong. And there's a lot of areas in my life where the Lord has been like, especially recently, Amanda, you're not an innocent party. And he caused me to see myself. And as I began to see myself, I began to say, Lord, deliver me, because this is crazy, you know. I began to say, okay, God, I didn't realize that. And then for those that I had an issue with forgiving, it gave me compassion for them.
Yeah.
Gave me compassion, you know, and not that if we're connected to people in an unhealthy relationship, like you said earlier, not that there's reconciliation, but have compassion to pray and say, okay, God, I was wrong. And when these people cross my path, I can go to them humbly and ask for forgiveness. And from there, we both walk into freedom. You know?
And I think sometimes it's something really powerful that happens when you finally decide to forgive without feeling like, I will forgive on these pretenses. Like, if they do this, then I can forgive God. Because it's almost like when you choose to forgive God's way, all the I'm sorries and apologies that you needed just start to flow in randomly. And you're like, God, I needed this 2 years ago. So I thought, but they come in when you don't need them anymore. If that makes sense. You don't need them to be whole. You don't need them to feel like your best self, but they are awesome when they do come. Because you're like, I actually have the heart to receive that now. If you came to me 2 years ago with that, I wouldn't have had it. But I have a heart of grace. I have a heart of, and it's so crazy because at one point my ex-boyfriend, when we broke up, it hurt me. Oh, it hurt me so badly. But after almost it made me sick for like 2 years. And I got to a place where God just started to really take it from me. I wouldn't really be triggered by him or seeing him or talking to him or anything. And I prayed because I got sick because I wanted an apology.
Okay.
I wanted an I'm sorry. And God got me to a place where he said, you don't need that I'm sorry. It's enough. It's done. You need to thank me for that relationship. Thank me for everything that came out of it. And just know that I will deal with him. You just work with me. And before you know it, I mean, it was probably a year later, but God literally sent him back. And he had every apology on the table.
Thank you, Lord.
Stuff I forgot he did. I forgot. He had all the apologies laid out, and it wasn't like I need to be with you, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was I just like the Lord was dealing with him. You could tell he was like, I just need to get this. I just need to get this out. I need to tell you I'm sorry. And the Lord also dealt with me on that because he said when people come back to you and want to be forgiven, you need to show them that I have forgiven you. I have forgiven them. You need to tell them I have forgiven them, and you have too.
Yeah.
And that's the love of Christ.
That is the love
It's
of
not
Christ.
reiterating, oh yeah, you should be sorry.
You know what? When you were speaking, I was thinking, okay, you are ready. Because and in the beginning, from what I gathered from you speaking, in the beginning, you were like, I deserve this apology. But you grew from there. You grew. It didn't matter whether he apologized or not. You were yet still walking, right? You didn't need that. So when you were able to handle it without you, because sometimes a person comes say, I'm sorry. People can take it as if, okay, you were wrong. That's not always the case, right? And we know that because we have to humble ourselves sometimes. Say, hey, I'm sorry. And maybe we're wrong or not, but we still have to humble ourselves. So a lot of times, but it sounds to me like you felt like you deserved an apology because he was just wrong at first. And then, but when you grew to the point where whether you got the apology or not, you were okay. God sent him back because he was wrong, but you were able to handle the I'm sorry.
And I was actually able to disciple him. I could have chosen that moment. I had told myself, I'm only gonna stay on this phone 20 minutes. And depending on what he said, I can't continue the conversation because I had to just stop letting him trigger me. To just be empathetic, to feel the need to save. But the Lord put me in a place where I felt the need to just press him towards God.
Amen.
Continue to edify and speak to the man of God that he placed in him, even if he doesn't see it. Even if he doesn't understand how to live it out, I continue to reiterate who God has always called him to be, who he will be when he says yes, completely and totally, because I believe it to be so. It will be so.
Yes.
He's going to say yes completely at some point and bless the masses because of it. But I was able to do that, have that conversation. When the conversation ended up being a 3-hour conversation, but after the conversation was over, I was able to say, now you've done what you needed to do, you got your I'm sorry, and we were both able to move on with our lives. Not feeling like we needed to continue to be intertwined with each other's lives, or I needed to disciple him and drag him to church with me and then choose to build him up so I could say I did it. God told me that was done. It's finished. Everything that was purposed in that moment, it's done. Thank him, but move on. And so I was able to peacefully feel like what the breakup I should have had 3 years ago, I was able to have that by God's grace when he brought him back. And it changed my life. It really was beautiful.
The beauty of it, just listening to you, is that you were able to forgive and let go so that God could use you as a tool to pull him in. Because I can't minister to you if I'm harboring unforgiveness in my heart.
That's true.
Concerning you. I mean, how are you going to be drawing? All you're going to see, I may be talking, but all you're going to see is an unforgiving heart because the stint is going to be there. You see, and it's going to be pouring out. So I was like, Lord, that's powerful. So you caused Keneisha to go through the process of forgiveness, and then you used her to minister into this man's life. That is so beautiful.
Then I had to teach a message on forgiveness at my Bible study that next week.
Oh, wow.
I had already been working on the message. It was so crazy. And that's how God works because I had already pulled my message together. I'm so orderly. And God was like, now you get to live this. Now you get to that was the week he came back. I was like, it's been, 6, 7, 8 months I haven't talked to you. And the Lord brought him back that week that I had to go give that word. I think he was just trying to see, are you for real? He just wanted to make me 100% real. So I taught out of a different space that week. Because you can minister to somebody so differently after God has truly dealt with you, truly stripped you of that thing, truly showed you the realness of his goodness, his love, his grace, his mercy. I could only do all of that because he was flowing through me.
Yes.
He was checking my heart. He was holding my tongue. He was holding my facial expressions because we have those. He was doing all of that in me, and I was able to literally go bless other people because of the life I was living, being the Christian God had called me to be in that space, to then go out and testify, basically, and just give my testimony through the Word of God, of course, on what God was doing in my life and showing me how to live out.
So powerful. So I want to shift. Tell me a story of you learning a version of your best self through self-reflection and understanding God's love. Your best self through self-reflection and understanding God's love.
I think I started to realize I was a really good person like 2 years ago. And it's crazy because my coworker says, man, you're like one of the most humble people I know. He's saying it hilariously. But it was at one point, I didn't celebrate myself. And I wasn't nice to myself. And I didn't talk to myself nicely. I didn't think good of myself. I just kind of went with the motions. I kind of let other people, I guess you could say, mishandle the glory, what God placed in me. I let other people define that for me. So for so long, I was irritable, angry, mad, cold. I was cold-hearted. I would talk about the toughest stuff I've been through in my life and I wouldn't even cry. Like I was just numb. Numb. And then God got me to a place where he made me pliable. So I then started to see after the forgiveness and really forgiving. Because I believe it was like 2 years ago, I wasn't in a place to verbally tell my mother I forgave her. Maybe it was like 3 years ago. But I sent her a text. And I was crying when I typed out the text. That's what's annoying. Like I was like, I'm not in a place where I can talk to you and say this, but I mean it and I believe it in my heart. So I sent the text and my mom was super receptive. I'm gonna cry. But my mom was super receptive and it was super sweet. And I was like, okay, this is good. And it was a small thing. I was like, okay, this is a text. So, you know, like maybe I could try bigger stuff. Like, okay, I could maybe tell her. You know, and then I got to a place where I could tell her, and I meant it, that I forgave her. And I forgave her, and then I was able to forgive other people. And then my heart got soft, and so I became real emotional. And I mean, I was emotional. Like, God's spirit was in me. Like, I would go to church, and I'd be crying all the time. And I'd be like, I'm not crying because anything is wrong.
Yeah.
I would hear other people's sympathetic stories, and I would be like crying with them. Like the Lord broke my heart for what broke theirs. And I started to empathize. Like I had empathy. And I never used to have that. I was cold-hearted, so I never could know when I hurt you. I never could know when you were hurting. I never could think about the many of different things that were going on in your life that could have catered to why you couldn't do X, Y, and Z for me. But all I wanted was X, Y, and Z because I was that selfish. I couldn't think for you. I couldn't love on you and love you in that space you were in for what that looked like. And so there was a part of me that started to do that for people. And as I learned, God was making me a loving person. He was giving me his love. I was open to crying. I was open to hearing people's testimonies. And that's when I started to realize God can use me. He can use me with this thing. Like I can pour into people that need it, people that were dealing with the family issues, the hurt, the unforgiveness with ex-boyfriends, dealing with the negative self-image of themselves. But like looking like it's all together on the outside. Because I've been really good at that. All my life, I just had to pretend everything was okay. And I was going through complete hell at home. All the time. So I was good. I was a professional at putting on like everything was good. But then that made me cold. After so long, I started to believe the fake truth. The lying to myself like everything was fine. But my soul was hurting. And I got to a place where my soul was feeling good. It was like my soul was happy and warm, and I loved people, and I loved to hug and to be loved. And I read this book. I tell everybody about it too. I love books. Like every time I'm the type, if I don't have the answer, I'm gonna go to the resource. I'm not gonna read the book and just run with it. I'm gonna let the Lord tell me what applies to me. I'm gonna listen to the sermon that needs to sit with me and sit on my spirit for a minute. So I go get resources for the areas that I am not equipped to handle. But it was in those moments that I let God penetrate my heart. And just come into my heart and help me love people and help me be sorry where I should have been sorry. Because he had to check me.